Hi, this is Lara at Elliott Wave Stock Market with a free Dow analysis for you for Thursday the 24th of February after New York is closed on Thursday. And I'm recording this video nearly 1:30 a.m. in the morning on Friday the 25th. Before I jump into my daily chart, a quick look at my historical wave count. This is my main wave count, which expects that this was the end of a long 5-wave structure at cycle degree, the end of a supercycle wave, and the start of a supercycle expanded flat correction here, with an ABC, a 3-wave structure down for A, an ABC, 3-wave structure up for B, and we're expecting a 5-wave structure to the downside for a C wave at cycle degree. This could be seen as a 5-wave structure here. It's unlikely that wave C at cycle degree was over here. It does meet minimum requirements for even if it hadn't managed to move beyond the end of A, it could have still been a running flat, although they're very rare. So it does meet the requirement that C end beyond the end of A to avoid a rare running flat. But I expect it's unlikely that cycle degree C was so very, very brief for a cycle degree wave. I expect this is just wave 1 within cycle degree wave C. So we're looking at an ABC zigzag correction, and it may have been over very recently, for a primary wave 2 within cycle degree wave C. 2 can't move beyond the start of 1, so this wave count eliminates the possibility of an new all-time high for the Dow. That would invalidate this wave count. However, it is also possible to look at this slightly differently, and instead of this being the end of cycle wave 5, this could have just been the end of cycle wave 3. With an ABC zigzag down for 4, we have to see this piece of movement here, however, as a 5-wave structure. It is certainly possible. This is a little ambiguous. So here I've counted it as a primary 1, 2, 3, 4, and an extended 5th wave. So this would be the end of a supercycle degree wave here, and would have a supercycle degree correction. I like this alternate slightly better because it sees this piece of movement down as a 3-wave structure, and we have an A, B, and within C a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, whereas my main wave count has to see this as a 5. I think it has a slightly better look as a 3. So again, it's unlikely that this 3-wave structure here was the correction of this multi-decade long rise over very, very briefly in just over a year. That would be extremely strange looking. So it's probably just wave A of a flat correction. Flat corrections are really, really common. Flat corrections, however, require a B wave which is at least 90% the length of A. So this alternate wave count must see price reach at 13,425.3 points for it to be a valid possibility. And at this stage, it's looking unlikely that price is going to get up there. So my main wave count has a slightly higher probability at this stage. I still want to see confirmation of that trend change, however. The most common type of a flat correction is an expanded flat where B actually reaches beyond the start of A. It's a really, really common corrective structure. So that would see this wave count allows for new all-time highs for the Dow. The upper end of the target zone is 14,584.5 points, where B reaches a 105% correction of A, which is the minimum requirement for a B wave of an expanded flat. And of all the flat corrections, an expanded flat is the most common. So that's the bigger picture, and this is the main wave count, which sees a very recent end as somewhat likely for primary 2. So taking you now to my daily chart, where the C wave at black or intermediate degree to end this primary 2 zigzag starts off to the left of the chart with a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 wave impulse. We can use Elliott's technique to draw a trend channel around the C wave, a trend line first from the high of 1 off to the left of the chart, to 3, and then a parallel copy placed on the low of 2, kind of shows where 4 ended. It fell somewhat short of this channel, however, but we have a really nice, very, very small little overshoot. The 5th wave has ended just about the upper edge of this trend channel, which is quite nice, so it does show us where wave 5 is most likely ended. So that's where we would expect 5 to end, and that's where price reached. Now we have a breach of this smaller pink channel on the daily chart. Again, Elliott's technique around this time, the impulse for wave 5 pink, a trend line from 1 to 3, and a parallel copy, normally placed on the low of 2, but I've been more generous here and placed it along these lows along here. Either way, we'll have a strong overshoot in the 4th wave position, which usually indicates, or sometimes indicates, an overshoot in the 5th wave on the opposite side of the channel, and that's what we got here. Importantly, this channel is strongly breached to the downside, and now the lower edge of this trend channel is providing resistance to upwards movement. We will have a trend change at least at minor degree confirmed when we see price move below 11,736. That's the end I have labelled for pink here. At that stage, downwards movement may not just be a second wave correction within wave 4 pink, and therefore wave 5 pink would have to have been over. I would not really want to put the labels for 1, 2 and 3 and 4 anywhere else, particularly this fourth wave. It is just possible that we could be seeing further upwards extensions. We can't see this now as a 1, 2, 3, 4 because 4 is in one price territory, so that possibility has also been eliminated by recent downwards movement. It's looking increasingly likely the Dow has had a fairly decent sized trend change. I'm going to wait to see movement below 11,736 and preferably below this big wide blue channel to have a trend channel confirmation of a big trend change. This is a really big trend change. It's going to see the Dow in an overall downwards trend for quite some time to make new lows below the low that we had for the credit crunch. Normally I just present 1 or 2 hourly charts. Today I'm going to challenge you to an intellectual exercise. I'm going to present all of the most viable alternates that I can see on the hourly chart, where I'm looking at this piece of downwards movement and how to label it. So here's the first hourly chart. I've got 5 to present, so I'll run through them fairly quickly. I've taken note of the subdivision of each wave, sometimes checking on a 15-minute chart to have a look and see is it a 3 or is it a 5. It's got a fit. I've made sure that all the rules of Elliott wave, particularly those main core rules, are met. 4 cannot overlap into 1 with the exception of a diagonal. 3 cannot be the shortest. And 2 can't move beyond the start of 1. So those are your core rules for Elliott wave that you have to make sure your wave count meets. We have a really nice 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 wave structure down here. This is the same for all my wave counts. Thereafter, an A, B, C zigzag up. Within this A wave, I can see a nice 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. A nice little 3 for B, and within C, a nice 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 here. So this is a nice little zigzag for a second wave. My last analysis expected a higher end to wave 2, somewhere up around here, because wave 2 is normally a deep correction and most commonly will reach up to the 0.618 Fibonacci ratio of wave 1. This one was a very shallow second wave correction, failing to reach that 0.618. That's okay. When it was over, we were expecting further downwards movement, which is what we got. After last analysis, anyway, that's what we expected. So this wave count here has this piece of movement down here labelled as wave 1 of wave 3 green. And thereafter, this is a 3-wave structure up, and this looks on the hourly chart most like a 3-wave structure down. So we may be seeing an expanded flat unfold for a second wave, a very, very common type of correction. In this instance, wave B is a 134% correction of A. Wave C, if it reaches 1.618 the length of A, the most common relationship between A and C of an expanded flat, would take price up to about 12,160. Wave 2 may not move beyond the start of 1, so the invalidation point for this first hourly wave count is at 12,253. I'm not going to go through all the Fibonacci ratios, that's all in the text article, which you can link to by clicking on the link below the YouTube video and takes you to my site, and you'll find the Dow analysis there. So that's my first hourly wave count, but this is also possible if we simply move the degree of labelling here, all up 1 degree. Instead of wave 1 of wave 3, this may have been wave 3 over here, and this expanded flat may therefore be a 4th wave. 4 can't move into 1, so the invalidation point for this wave count is lower at 12,178. The same target, the same ratio analysis between A and C tells us to expect this upwards movement towards this target, and the C wave must be a 5-wave structure. So for this wave count, price must remain below this point, and then we should see some further downwards movement. However, this is also possible because this is a 3-wave structure. This could have actually been a fairly brief 4th wave. It could have actually been over here. We have a 1, 2, 3, 4, and now this downwards piece of movement is a 3-wave structure. So for wave 5 green, we may be looking at an ending diagonal, which requires each and every subwave to subdivide into a zigzag. Therefore, this could just be wave 1 of an ending diagonal for wave 5 green. Wave 2 may be over here. When I look at this piece of movement on a 15-minute chart, it's just possible that it could be over here, or we could be seeing a further extension of it upwards. 2 can't move beyond the start of 1, so the invalidation point is the same at 12,129. However, this is also possible. If we move the degree of labelling here, or down 1 degree again, and then we have a 1, 2, and then within 3, 1, 2, and the start of a third wave at orange degree. But there's a little problem because this is a 3-wave structure. This can't be a first wave of wave 3, so it can't be wave 1 purple within wave 3 orange, so it's only wave 1 of wave 1 purple, and wave 1 purple may be unfolding as a leading diagonal. A leading diagonal may have subwaves 1, 3 and 5 dividing into either zigzags or sometimes impulses. So this is a wave 1 zigzag of a leading diagonal for wave 1 purple of wave 3 orange. The invalidation point's the same at 12,129. However, this is my final alternate wave count. We've moved the degree of labelling here all up 1 degree again. And we've taken a closer look at this little piece of movement here on a 15-minute chart. When I look at this more carefully, I see a 5, 3, and in order for the C to be most easily seen as a 5, it has a slight truncation, which alters the count of this downwards piece of movement from corrective to impulsive, because we're taking some of the piece of movement that previously we saw in here out and putting it in the previous upwards wave. I hope that makes sense. You'll have to look at that one closely on a 15-minute chart to see what I mean. So now we have an impulse down, so therefore wave 5 could have actually been over here, and if it is, there are some remarkably good Fibonacci ratios. This 5th wave here is just 1 point longer than 0.618 the length of this 3rd. 3 and 1 are very close to equality. 3 is 18 points longer, which is just a 7% variation, so I consider that acceptable. So therefore we have a satisfactory impulse at pink or minute degree. I've chosen to label this. Any degree you choose to label it, it could be a 5-wave impulse over here, requiring a correction, a second wave correction, which, as I said before, is most likely to reach up to the 0.618 Fibonacci ratio, so we would expect at this very early stage of wave 2 pink for it to reach close to 12,236. When we know the end of A and B within it, we can use the relationship between A and C to calculate a more accurate target. It's too early in the piece to do that. The invalidation point for this final wave count is a lot further away. We only need to see a new high for the Dow above 12,395 for this possibility to be invalidated. So those 5 hourly wave counts are the most likely that I can see. They are not all of the possible wave counts for that recent downwards movement. They're just the most likely ones that I can see. So I invite you to partake in that intellectual exercise and determine which one you think has the highest probability. The easiest way to do that would probably be to start at the other end and eliminate those you think have the lowest probability and see what you're left with. If you want to have a go at that and send me your conclusions, please be prepared to have some valid reasoning behind it. That's all for me today with your Dow analysis. I hope this helps you in your trading, or at least your wave counting, and I hope that everyone else has a fabulous day.